pleasure to be back here to bring to you a brand new session of Words Are Bridges, a new series and initiative by the Jaipur Literature Festival in partnership with HarperCollins India.
Words are bridges.
शब्द सेतु हैं।
अल्फाज दिलों को और इंसानियत को जोड़ने का एक अजीम और तरीन पुल है।
വാക്കുകൾ പാലങ്ങളാണ്.
लफ्ज़ च सगरी कदल तारा
वहीनतुन
आखर हमार मेल सन आखर हमार जोड़
हफ्ते खमोइनर हितु
Cocktail rock, yakrais.
तुहिह इनको कैला श्याम तू अमी
Ajrahana abati kisale.
ग्राउटाइनिंग याउक्राई
शब्द सेतु होन.
शब्दां दी सांस।
Words Are Bridges is a series that will celebrate the magic of language and the power of language and literature and translation to connect us across countries and borders and cultures. In our first season, we will be talking to eminent speakers writing across Indian languages and hope to bring to you the joy and pleasure that comes from great conversation and great literature. But before we begin, I'd like to call Namita Gokhale, co-director of the Jaipur Literature Festival, Sanjoy Roy, producer of the Jaipur Literature Festival, and my colleague Udayan Mitra from HarperCollins India to welcome all of you.
Dear lovers of books and literature, words travel, ideas travel, stories travel. We welcome you to our new digital platform, Words Are Bridges. This important initiative looks at the act of translation as a mediation between languages and culture, between time and place. India's unique literary landscape, with its rich diversity and its absolutely staggering multilinguality, will be explored through a fascinating series of sessions that bring together writers, translators, and commentators. We at JLF are delighted to partner with HarperCollins India to expand our horizons of reading as we listen in to the original text and also examine its resonance through translations. Thank you.
Stories provide us place, context, culture, and tradition. In India, with our vast diversity of linguistic traditions, we often don't have access to each other's content. The Jaipur Literature Festival brings to you Words Are Bridges to explore translation and writing from across India in association with HarperCollins.
At HarperCollins, we've always watched with delight as words build bridges, as the books that we publish introduce readers to worlds often unknown to them. This is especially true of our translations, which wonderfully connect cultures through the written word. Today, unfortunately, readers and writers are feeling more isolated than ever before. JLF's Words Are Bridges is a lovely initiative to connect us all over again. We at HarperCollins are really excited to be part of this program.
Thank you, Namita, Sanjoy, and Udayan. Our session today is Shameless, Taslima Nasreen and Arunava Sinha in conversation. Best-selling author and human rights activist Taslima Nasreen and renowned translator Arunava Sinha discussed Shameless, the explosive sequel to Lajja, an unflinching, heartbreaking look at ordinary people's lives in our troubled times. They talk about the inspiration behind it, along with the challenges and experiences of writing and translating it. Arunava Sinha translates classic, modern, and contemporary Bengali fiction and non-fiction from Bangladesh and India into English. Over 50 of his translations have been published so far. His recent translations include Kunal Basu's The Endgame, Bani Basu's Moon, Taslima Nasreen's Shameless, and Desire for Fire, modern Bengali poetry in translation. Taslima Nasreen is a secular humanist, a human rights defender, and a prolific and best-selling author who has faced censorship, banning, forced exile, and multiple fatwas calling for her death. Nasreen is the author of 40 works of fiction and non-fiction in Bengali, which have been published in over 30 languages worldwide. Do follow our handles JLF Litfest on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get notified on the upcoming sessions. In case any of you drop off due to bandwidth issues, don't worry, you can find us again on our YouTube channel, Jaipur Litfest JLF. Ladies and gentlemen, Shameless.
So translating Shameless was a very interesting and unusual experience for me for various reasons. For one thing, here I was working on the text written by a very passionate and forceful woman. Secondly, the text is written in a way that it sucks you in as a reader. You are completely unable to distance yourself from it. And as a translator, you need the little bit of distance to be able to, render the text in another language. But it was virtually impossible to create that distance. So normally I tend not to read a text before I translate it if I can help it. In this case, I had to read it twice or thrice over simply to generate that little bit of distance from it, which would enable me to translate it. So this was a very unusual experience for me. Hi, Taslima. It's very good to have you here again. And we are getting used to meeting each other in these small rectangles, aren't we?
Yes. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Mm.
It's very good to be able to chat with you once more about this novel, Shameless. I had a fantastic time translating it and reading it and translating it and reading it. And it was quite a roller coaster ride because it drew me in so much and the prose carried me along on its own strength. So at times I actually found it difficult to stop reading and start translating instead.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to hear it. And you translated really good. It was a good translation.
Thank you. I was also very amazed by the difference between this novel and the one that it is a sequel to, Lajja. So can we just back up for a minute maybe and talk a little bit about Lajja to begin with, because we now have an entire new generation since Lajja was first published in Bangla and then translated into English in its first version, although a more recent, a 30-year version was, or a 20-year version was later published as well in a new translation. So do you want to tell us a little bit about why you wrote Lajja and the kind of response you had from readers in India to it?
Yeah, I wrote Lajja in 1992 in December when Babri Mosque in India was demolished by Hindu fanatics. That Muslim fanatics in Bangladesh started attacking Hindus living in Bangladesh. So I have seen so many Hindu houses, shops were destroyed, and so many Hindus actually were attacked, and many of them decided to leave Bangladesh. Suranjan was a very secular man. He was a leftist, but he saw that his sister was abducted and raped by Muslim fanatics, and his house was attacked by Muslim fanatics. He had many Muslim friends, but he couldn't imagine that could happen to him. His father was also a very secular person. They loved their country, and Suranjan, a secular man, started becoming a Hindu fanatic, and he started hating Muslims. And then he decided to leave with his family to India. And then that was the story of Lajja, because it is so common. So many Hindus have been leaving Bangladesh for India. But in the sequel, which is titled Shameless, there I tried to show that Suranjan thought that if he start living in a Hindu country, he will be loved and respected as Hindu. But no, he realized that Hindus get exploited by Hindus, like Muslims get exploited by Muslims. So the conflict is not between Hindus and Muslims or Hinduism and Islam. Actually, what I tried to show, that conflict is actually between secularism and fundamentalism, between rational logical mind and irrational blind faith, between innovation and tradition, between modernism and anti-modernism, between humanism and barbarism, between the people who value freedom and who do not. So Suranjan started realizing that people could be secular and fundamentalist. So he actually, in the beginning, he joined some fundamentalist party, and then he realized that no, it is not his he didn't like them. Actually, then he found that some secular Muslims, and he became friends of some Muslims. He even fell in love with a Muslim girl. So actually, he started treating people, Hindus or Muslims or Buddhists or Christians, as human beings. That is the message of the book. That actually the religious identity is not really the it's not good. That people should be treated as human beings, whatever their religion or gender or ethnicity or their skin color, So in Shameless, a rape occurred. Probably it didn't happen, and I tried to show that Shuranjan became a really secular person again. Actually, he realized that that Hindus could be exploited and cheated by Hindus, and Muslims could be good. All Muslims are not bad. All Hindus are not good. Actually, he became a human being. He didn't hate Muslims anymore. Maya also, she was raped and by Muslim fanatics. But then in India, she was also raped by Hindu relative. Then she realized actually the persons can be good and bad. So religion doesn't have to do anything with it. So they realized that their human identity is the most important identity.
Right. And you wrote, then you moved to India after Lodja, and when you had to leave Bangladesh, and you went to Calcutta, and then you wrote the novel that you tentatively called Besharam, which became Shameless in English in 2006, or was it 7?
7. When I was under house arrest.
When you were under house arrest. So that was 14 years after Lodja, or 15 years. It is also coincidentally about 13 or 14 years before the English edition was published, and about the same time since the Bangla edition was published. So why did you not publish that novel immediately after writing it? Why did it have to wait 13 or 14 years?
Actually, I was hesitating to publish that book because, after writing that book, in 2007, I was thrown out of Calcutta, and then I was forced to live under house arrest in Delhi. Then I had to even leave Delhi or leave India. I was forced to leave India in 2008. Then I didn't know where to live, what to do. So I lived in Europe for some months, and then United States. But at that time, I was not very happy with the with the manuscript, and I thought that okay, it is just a draft, because I was in very intense condition when I was not allowed to leave, move out of the house or do anything, or you cannot invite any friend at home when I was living under house arrest. So at that time, I was not in very, it was not very good time. So I thought that what I wrote, this manuscript is just draft only. So I will polish it, I will rewrite it. But I didn't get any time to rewrite. And that actually I forgot about the manuscript. So after 14 years, anyway, it was published, and I am happy that you like the book, and I am happy that people like the book, and also the translation is quite good now.
And do you feel that the book acquired some kind of new relevance suddenly in the year 2020?
I think so. I think that in the subcontinent, the subject of Lodja and also Shameless is very relevant. I think so. Because the conflict between Hindus and Muslims is still going on. And what I try to show, what I try to tell the audience, that actually this is not, it shouldn't be like this way. because all are human beings. We are Hindus, and our identity is the same, and our history is the same. Just we happen to be born in some Muslim house, or Muslim family to, or Hindu family, but we are the same people in the subcontinent. Our happiness, our sorrows, our history, our everything is the same. Our food, our culture, our the traditions, all are the same. So religion should not be so important. Actually, sometimes I feel that politicians use religion to divide people. So people should understand that, and people should live together. They have been living together for thousands of years. Suddenly why this division? And I never accept the partition of India. So that when I live in India, I don't believe that it is a foreign land. Always I feel that it is my land, my ancestors' land. So.
Now, you said sometimes you feel that politicians use religion to divide people. Are you sure it's only sometimes?
Maybe you try to say that is all the time.
Yes.
I don't think it is all the time, but sometimes they do. That the partition of India was unnecessary, and all the time that create conflict and divide people. This is I don't think it is good. So Shuranjan maybe was a vagabond. I didn't create Shuranjan as very ideal person. No, he was not an ideal person. He was vagabond. He sometimes, hated some, friends, and then whatever he did was not always perfect, always good, but his realization was very important. He realized that all Muslims are not my enemies, all Hindus are not my friends. Hindus can be good and bad. Muslims also can be good and bad. What is their ideology is very important. So he was a friend of Sobhan, who was a Muslim man, and also he was a lover of Julekha, who was a Muslim girl. But he was happy with it. He was happy with them,
So one of the interesting things you do in Lojja is that you intersperse the fictional element with a lot of actual facts and data.
Yeah.
And in the same way, you've done this other remarkable thing in Shameless, which is that you have inserted yourself as a character in this novel.
Yeah, it was so fun. It was
or
fun.
rather, let me say, you've inserted a person named Taslima Nasreen in this novel. Who has some resemblances with you. I'm not sure if it's the same character, but do you want to read us a little bit from the beginning in the original Bangla, and then maybe we can talk a little bit more about that?
Okay. আমার সঙ্গে হঠাৎ সুরঞ্জনের দেখা। আমার রাউডেন স্ট্রিটের বাড়িতে সে একদিন দরজায় বেল টিপলো। খুলে দেখে অচেনা একটি ছেলে। কি চাই? আপনাকে চাই। আমাকে কেন? খুব দরকার। খুব দরকার বললে তো হবে না। আপনি কোত্থেকে এসেছেন, কেন এসেছেন বলুন। ছেলেটি মাথা চুলকোলো নাকি হাত চুলকোলো আমার মনে নেই, তবে কিছু একটা চুলকে ছিল। খুব স্মার্ট কিছু বলে আমার মনে হয়নি। এভাবে এলে দেখা করা সম্ভব নয়। ফোনে অ্যাপয়েন্টমেন্ট করে তবে আসুন। এই বলে দরজা বন্ধ করে দিলাম। দরজার ওপাশে আমি সুরঞ্জন দত্ত, দরজাটা খুলুন, একটু কথা বলতে চাই। সুরঞ্জন দত্ত নামটা চেনা লাগলো, কিন্তু যুবকের মুখ তো চেনা নয়। দ্বিতীয়বার দেখলে মনে পড়তে পারে আগে কোথাও দেখেছি কিনা। এই ভেবে দরজা খুলি, আপাদমস্তক দেখি। একবার মনে হচ্ছে একে আগে কোথাও দেখেছি আমি, পরক্ষণেই মনে হচ্ছে আমাদের প্রথম দেখা। মুখে অপ্রস্তুত হাসি। যুবক বলল, আমি সুরঞ্জন, আমাকে চিনতে পারছেন না? আমাকে নিয়ে তো আপনি একটি উপন্যাস লিখেছিলেন। উপন্যাস? হ্যাঁ, উপন্যাস, লজ্জা নামের উপন্যাসটি লিখেছিলেন, মনে আছে? গা কেঁপে উঠলো আমার। যে মানুষ মরে গেছে জানি, অনেক বছর পর যদি তাকেই দেখে আমার দিকে হেঁটে আসতে, বোধহয় এমনই বোধ হবে।
Thank you. Maybe I'll read the English version of that portion and a little more, just to get us an entry into the novel so that we can talk about it. I met Shuranjan quite unexpectedly. He rang the bell one day at my Rawdon Street flat, and I opened the door to find an unknown young man. Whom do you want? You. Me? Why? It's urgent. That's not good enough. Why are you here? Where have you come from? He scratched his head, or maybe his hand, I don't remember, but it did scratch something. It didn't seem particularly confident. You can't just turn up out of the blue to meet me. Make an appointment on the phone. I shut the door in his face. From the other side, I could hear him say, I'm Shuranjan Dotto. Open the door, I need to talk to you. Shuranjan Dotto. The name seemed familiar, but not the face. Maybe I would recognize him if I took another look at his face. It was with this thought that I opened the door and surveyed him from head to toe. One moment it was like I had seen him before, and the very next, no, this was the first time. Smiling awkwardly, he said, I'm Shuranjan. Don't you recognize me? You wrote a novel about me. A novel? Yes, a novel. You called it Lodja. Don't you remember? I trembled. This was probably how it would feel if I found someone I knew to be dead walking up to me. I'd just stand there like a fool, rooted to the spot, frozen, as I was doing now, gazing at Shuranjan, who alternated between looking at me and lowering his eyes and scratching his cheek. Yes, scratching his cheek. I remember because he had a large mole, and every time his nails grazed it, I felt the mole would come off. Thinking of the mole made me stop trembling. I had been apprehensive about moles for several years now. A friend of mine, a French woman, had a tiny innocuous mole on her hand which spread everywhere. I don't know how, to become cancerous. When I was young, I used to yearn for a mole on my face, no matter how small. I would even draw one just above my lips, a little to the right with a cold pencil. But now the sight of a mole anywhere terrified me. It was Shuranjan's mole that unfroze me. I opened the door fully and invited the stranger in. And so Shuranjan enters Taslima's life. Now, what made you put yourself into this novel?
At that time, when I was under house arrest, nobody used to come to my home because they are all afraid of the government. That government will notice that who is coming to my home. So I was very lonely. Then I thought that I should write a novel because I have enough time at home, because I don't have to go anywhere. I was not allowed to go anywhere, and nobody was coming to my home. Then I was thinking, what about a fictional character from my novel, if they come? And of course, the fictional characters of Lodja left Bangladesh for India, and they were living in Kolkata. Of course, the Bengali people normally come to Kolkata, and they start living there. So I thought that, okay, what about fictional character if I meet them? So it was just my idea, and then I started writing.
But then it's very interesting that the Taslima in this novel is a character as complex as the others, and as certain of many things and equally uncertain of many things.
Yeah.
And moreover, she forms relationships with the characters.
Yeah, kind of Taslima kind of started liking Shuranjan. Sometimes she misbehaved with Shuranjan's girlfriend.
Yes. Is there jealousy?
So kind of jealous. So Taslima was not even perfect. Taslima was jealous. Taslima was mean. And then actually afterwards, what I did, I made the women characters very strong, and they actually left. They didn't think that they will be really satisfied or happy with some men, even though some men were really good. But they decided to live alone as women, as human being, as a individual. So I did. I don't know what would happen. Maybe in the next part, I will describe what happened to them.
Are you thinking of a sequel to the sequel?
No, actually not now.
Okay. So this brings me to the point that while you've been talking about fundamentalism versus a rational outlook and secularism, there is also the intersectional element of feminism in your works.
Yeah.
And they run together. So, and that is very clearly evident in this novel, where the women are not only victims of fundamentalism, but they're also victims of patriarchal control.
Yeah.
And your attempt to free your characters is both from the clutches of religious fundamentalism and from male control. So do you want to talk about
Yes.
this intersectionality?
Yeah, I think that it's very important. I believe that secularism is very, very important for women's equality, because all religions are anti-women. So you have to have secularism if you really want women's equality. This is very important. And no fundamentalist, either Hindus or Buddhists or Christians or Jewish or any other of any other religion, that would allow women's equality, because religion was actually, what I think, was created by male for male interests. So women have no place there. Women are just treated as childbearing machine or sex objects or slave of men. So those women, even though they were very vulnerable, Juleka, Maya, and some other women, actually they protested against male dominance, and they became free. They, so it was very important, because as a feminist writer, I think that it is very important to make people realize that it is not the final, shouldn't be the the family, and that even in patriarchal society, when male are mostly very anti-women, it is no fun to live with those kind of men. But sometimes we feel that Suranjan was probably anti-women. You can be secular doesn't mean that you are a feminist. We see that here, many people, they can be leftists, but they are very much, they don't actually believe in women's equal rights. So we see the conflict. So in here in this book, it's not that everybody is not perfect. They have problems. Maybe they are secular, maybe they are atheists, but they are anti-women. So we see that, so here, and also we have seen that Maya was very anti-Muslim, but she fell in love with the Muslim man. So then she realized that actually those Muslim men also is very patriarchal, very much, domineering. So she even left him. So I am not saying that this should be every woman should leave patriarchal society, or men living in patriarchal society. I'm not saying this, but what I am showing in this in this book is that they did it. But it is not my prescription that every woman should do. If they find any loving, caring man, why shouldn't they live together or they marry? They should, But if they don't find it, if they have any kind of hesitation, then only they should not marry for the sake of marriage, So they should live alone until, they find the right person.
Why are you not advocating it?
Because if there are, I'm not saying that all men are anti-women. There are men who believe in women's equality, and also there are women who do not believe in women's equality. I'm saying that people who believe in women's equality, men and women, I think that it is good if they live together or they marry, they can be happy, or happiness actually depends on them, how much they love each other.
But I don't sense from your books that you believe in the existence of such men. I mean, maybe you think theoretically their existence is possible, but in practical terms.
What about you? Don't you believe in women's equality? Of course you do.
Yes, but it's one thing to believe, it's another thing to act accordingly.
We don't see this. You don't see that, in the Indian subcontinent, not many men are actually true believer of women's equality and who want to, go against the patriarchal system. No, actually not really. সুরঞ্জন মাথা নত করে। মাথা নত করা লোকদের নিয়ে আমি খুব স্বচ্ছন্দ বোধ করি না। সম্ভবত কিছু বলতে চায় সে। আমার ইচ্ছেটির কথা বলি যে একদিন তার মার সঙ্গে আর মায়ার সঙ্গে দেখা করতে চাই। এবার চোখ তুলে তাকায়, ঘাড় নাড়ে সে। হ্যাঁ, সে রাজি। আর চলো আমার সঙ্গে খাবে, সময় আছে তো, কাজ নেই তো। আমার দিক থেকে প্রস্তাব। সুরঞ্জন লুফে নেয়। ওকে নিয়ে দুপুরে মার্কো পোলোয় যাই, বুফে খাবার খেতে খেতে সুরঞ্জন বলে সে 96 সালে বিয়ে করেছিল সুদেষ্ণা নামের এক মেয়েকে। দুজনেই দমদমের এক বেসরকারি কলেজে পড়াতো, ইতিহাস পড়াতো সুরঞ্জন। তারপর আর কি, ডিভোর্স হয়ে গেছে। কেন? শীতল উত্তরের শীতল প্রশ্ন। এর সরাসরি উত্তর নেই। উঠে গিয়া আরো খাবার নিয়ে আসে সুরঞ্জন। মনে হয় অনেকদিন পর সে ভালো ভালো খাবার খাচ্ছে, বেশ খুশি মনে খাচ্ছে। কাঁকড়া নিল কয়েক টুকরো, ওগুলো কেটে খাবার যন্ত্র দিয়ে গেল ওয়েটার। যন্ত্রটা ব্যবহার করলো সে। ব্যবহার করতে করতেই বলল, 498 জানেন তো, বধূ নির্যাতন মামলায় ফাঁসিয়েছিল আমাকে বিয়ের 2 বছর পর। আমি তীক্ষ্ণ চোখে সুরঞ্জনকে দেখি। এ তার স্ত্রীকে নির্যাতন করত, আর একে আমি নেমন্তন্ন করে খাওয়াচ্ছি। একটা দীর্ঘশ্বাস বেরিয়ে আসছে ভেতর থেকে। আমার কোনোদিন বোধহয় শিক্ষা হবে না। ভুল মানুষদেরই আমি খাতির করে যাব জীবনভর। বাংলাদেশে অনেকে তো অত্যাচারিত হয়েছে। সাম্প্রদায়িক লোকদের অত্যাচারের মুখে পড়লে সাম্প্রদায়িক হয়ে যেতে হয়। কি ছিল সুরঞ্জনের যেটা নিয়ে আমি তার প্রতি সহৃদয় হতে পারি? ভেবে দেখি কিছু না। একটা অতীত ছিল তার, যে অতীতে সে হিন্দু মুসলমান কোনো ভেদ করেনি। সে মানুষ হিসেবে সবাইকে বিচার করত, ধর্ম মানত না, ধর্মীয় রীতিনীতির নিন্দা করত। কিন্তু সুরঞ্জনের ওই মনটা তো অতীত। আসলে সত্যিকার মানববাদী নাস্তিক হলে দুম করে কেউ হিন্দু হয়ে যেতে পারে না। সন্দেহ হয় আদৌ ভেতরে ভেতরে সুরঞ্জন শক্তপোক্ত কোনো নাস্তিক ছিল কিনা। ছিল না, থাকলে এমন হয় না। তাহলে কি আছে আর কারণ, যে কারণে সুরঞ্জনের প্রতি সহানুভূতি আমার? খাবার আমি দ্রুত খেতে থাকি, শেষ করে উঠবো। ঘড়িও দেখিনি ফাঁকে। নিজের আদর্শের সঙ্গে মেলে তো নাই, তার উপর নারী নির্যাতনকারী একজনের সঙ্গে সময় নষ্ট করার সময় আমার থাকা উচিত নয়।
Shuranjan bowed his head. I'm not very comfortable with people who do this. It seemed he did want to say something. I expressed my wish to meet his mother and Maya. He lifted his eyes now and nodded. Yes, he was ready for this. Come eat with me today. Do you have some time? You aren't busy, are you? Shuranjan grabbed at my proposal. I took him to Marco Polo for lunch, where they had laid out a buffet. As he ate, Shuranjan told me he had got married in 96 to a girl named Shudeshna. Both of them used to teach at a private college in Damdam. Shuranjan's subject was history. And then nothing. We got divorced. Why? A cold question in response to a cold reply. There was no direct answer to this. Shuranjan rose to get himself another helping. It seemed to me he had been served delicious food after a long time, for he was eating ravenously. He took several helpings of crab, and the waiter gave him the instrument for cracking the shell. Using it, he said, 498A, you know. She framed me in a case of domestic violence 2 years after we got married. I looked at Shuranjan critically. This man used to torture his wife, and here I was treating him to lunch. I sighed. Would I never learn? Would I keep doing good things for bad people all my life? Yes, many people had been persecuted in Bangladesh, but was becoming communal the only way to confront communalism? What quality of Shuranjan's could make me favorably disposed towards him? I thought about it. Nothing. In the past, he did not differentiate between Hindus and Muslims. He judged people as human beings. He did not believe in religion. He used to criticize religious rituals. But that aspect of the man was history now. The truth is that a real humanist atheist cannot turn into a Hindu overnight. I doubted whether he had ever been a firm and resilient non-believer. He couldn't have been, or this change would not have taken place. What reason could there be for my sympathy? I began to eat quickly, planning to leave as soon as I had finished. I even took a quick look at my watch. Not only did my ideology not match his, but I also shouldn't have been spending time with someone who had tortured women. It wasn't as though I had to accept every misconduct of his just because I had written a novel based on the story of his life. Shuranjan said faintly, I did beat Shudeshna. I almost shouted in response. Admirable, a remarkable achievement. You beat her. That night when you abducted a woman from the street in Dhaka and raped her, you beat that woman too, didn't you? You're so strong that you cannot help demonstrating your strength on women. You probably beat your own mother too. Or do you spare her because she is your mother? I was drunk that night. Shuranjan answered me calmly. You mean the night you beat Shamima? No, when I beat Shudeshna. Are you blaming alcohol? He was silent. Through clenched teeth, I said, don't blame everything on your drink. It's your fault. Plenty of people drink. They don't beat anyone up. Didn't you have to go to jail? I was in jail for a long time. The divorce came through afterwards. I lost my job too. So you get flack from both sides. You get flack from fundamentalists. You get flack from people of both religions, and you get flack from men as well, and maybe women as well. You are attacked from all sides, aren't you? Because of what you write.
Actually, about religion, I should say that critical scrutiny is very important. I always say that Islam has been exempted from critical scrutiny that is applied to other religions. And Islam has to go through the enlightenment process that other religions have gone through by questioning the unscientific, unequal, irrational, and inhuman aspects of religion. This is very important. So if we start criticizing religion, then there will be more and more free thinkers in a society. So I talk about freedom of expression, I talk about democracy, I talk about women's equality and secularism and human rights. So whoever violating human rights, whoever violating the principal pillar of democracy, that is freedom of expression, I am very critical of that, because I want a very equal society where men and women will have equal rights. So I am a dreamer, you can say, but my main intention is not that attack people. I attack bad system because I want to have a good system in society.
But there have been many attempts to silence your voice.
Yeah, of course. I'm a Bengali writer, and I'm not allowed to live in Bangladesh, where I was born and brought up. And I was not allowed to live in West Bengal. West Bengal, here I have Indian visa, Indian residence permit, but I'm not allowed to live in West Bengal.
That's a shame.
Actually, my main intention was, when I left Europe, I started living in Europe during my exile life. Then I realized it's not my place. My place is Bengal, because I write in Bengali. I need Bengali environment. So I left Europe. In Europe, I was treated as celebrity author, but I left everything for Bengal because I couldn't go back to my country. So I entered Bengal. In the beginning, the government embraced me, and I was so happy. I started, I rented an apartment. I bought all the furnitures and everything. I brought everything, whatever I had in Europe, I brought in Kolkata. And I was very happy. I had many friends, Bengali friends. I had publishers. I was writing, columns in the Bengali newspapers. I was very happy. Suddenly something happened that government decided to throw me out. I was so shocked. Nothing happened in West Bengal. In Bangladesh, hundreds of thousands of people demanded my execution by hanging. They were in the streets every day. And then government, to tackle the situations, actually threw me out of the country, even though it was not right. But almost nothing happened. A staged demonstration happened in West Bengal, and then government actually decided to throw me out of the state. Actually, before that, before any kind of riot or any kind of processions, government decided to throw me out of the country. After I was attacked in Hyderabad, when I came back to my home in Kolkata, government started, putting me under house arrest and constantly pressuring me to leave the state.
As a Bengali and as someone who was born and brought up in West Bengal, I apologize to you for what has happened to you. It should not have happened, and it goes completely against the tenets of freedom of expression that we claim to stand for. but at the first opportunity, we seem to push back against it. And this is something that you've been affected by right through, isn't it?
Always. So, I am affected in the Indian subcontinent, but still I want to live here because my presence, I think that it would show that India is a secular country. India can give an atheist and secular person who is also critical of religion a shelter. I can live here, so that if I am thrown out of India, then what would be what would I think? India is like Bangladesh? No, India should be different. In this whole Indian subcontinent, India is the country, a big country and a secular country only. Bangladesh is not really secular, Pakistan is not really secular. So India should keep its secularism. In India, freedom of expression must not be violated. So I could be, or anyone could speak out their mind, and they should not be charged for that. They should not be, they should not be punished for it, whatever it is, whatever their belief is, until the violence. If we will not do the violence, but before that, all kinds of speech should be okay. So freedom of expression, free speech, a very important part of democracy.
I'm going to ask you for a quick answer to the next question, which is our last one. So now we've been locked down and we are under this pandemic for 4 months and counting, and we don't know how much longer. What are you writing now? Are you writing something?
It's not that I'm writing a book. I decided to write a book. So I'm writing, I'm reading, I'm watching movies, I'm doing everything. But it's not that I started writing a book. Probably I will, but so far, lots of tension because I have diabetes and hypertension. So I'm very careful and trying to write. I have written some columns and essays, but not really a novel. But short stories I have written.
And you're a doctor yourself?
Yeah, I am a doctor. But I don't practice those. But, once upon a time, I studied medicine. I got a degree.
I know. So you write in all these different forms. You write novels, you write opinion columns, op-eds, you write poetry, you write short stories. How does a form come to you? When do you decide that this is a poem, this is a story, this is a novel?
Yeah, I realized when some ideas are very good in essay form, some ideas are very good in poetry form. So a person, especially who is a writer and poet, I think that they can figure out in which form their feelings would be more, what?
Okay, so you're saying that it's a sort of natural choice.
Sorry?
It's a sort of natural choice when you get around to it.
Natural choice. But I used to write poetry a lot. I don't write nowadays. Probably that I have to write some columns for newspapers, because that gives me good money and I have to earn money anyway. So there are so many publishers, they are not paying much though. So writing columns every week, actually, probably because of that, I don't get time or mood to write poems. But sometimes when I fall in love or when I am sad, I start writing poetry. So it's a very good, when you are in love, poetry is very good at that to show your, express your feelings. And also when you are hurt by your loved ones, it's also a very, very good form to
So
express your
I'd
feelings.
like to hear that you are writing poetry now for the first reason. I'd like to hear that.
I will.
That's great. Unfortunately, Taslima, right now the clock will dominate. Otherwise, it was just getting interesting. But thank you very much for being here this evening. And thank you most of all for continuing courageously to write what you believe in and not giving way.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be.
Thank you for sharing that wonderful and moving conversation with us, Taslima and Arunava. And thank you all for watching and being such a great audience. If you've enjoyed this session, don't forget to talk about it to your friends and share it on your social media channels. And do send us your feedback. We value it highly. We look forward to seeing you next Thursday.